Today's Community Day. We're all meeting after the service for our annual meeting, so we're looking forward to that. I hope all of you here will join us. And live streamers, we're going to be doing it on Zoom if you've registered, so you don't have to be physically here to participate in the conversation. But with that theme, I want to talk about community and sacred community. And I'm going to begin with affirmation, and I'll close with this too. It'll hopefully have even more meaning by the time a few minutes is up here to have a dialogue about community. So try this one on for size. I am divine expressing. Just like we say here in the beginning, we are expressions of the divine. So I am divine expressing. I practice as part of sacred communities. And I am collective wholeness. So let's dig into each one of those pieces. And those of you who know me know that I'm into nature. So take a look outside, find a tree that calls to you. We're going to use the tree as a metaphor for community, just to kind of get us in the mind shift here. So you can close your eyes if you want to and conjure up your favorite tree, or you can look outside and connect with one that way. You don't have to close your eyes, it's up to you. But let me just walk you through a way to think about trees and community. Imagine that you are a tree. Under the ground, the roots of you absorb water. Above the ground, you're absorbing air. Around your root zone, beneficial fungi develop and help you absorb important nutrients. In return, the fungi feed off of you, but not in a way that is bad. This is a symbiotic relationship between you and the fungi. Microfauna may also feed off of the fungi, and nitrogen-fixing bacteria help convert atmospheric nitrogen compounds that plants can use. Working up your tree trunk to the big structural branches, here you may have mosses and lichens, absorbing water and nutrients from the air and using you as a platform to live off of. They don't damage you at all. The mosses and lichen provide food for other insects, which in turn provide food for your birds and small mammals. The tree provides fruits which animals consume and disperse, and the animals and birds that live on you and your friends provide organic wastes. These wastes are converted into nutrients while decaying, which the plants use for growth. Similarly, your crown has insects and birds that feed off of your leaves, that drink the sap and the buds of your branches and twigs. These, in turn, are food for larger organisms. And pieces of you that may be on the ground, dead and dying, or still up in the canopy even, have fungi that thrive on your dying tissue and simply recycle the dead wood into food for themselves. You and your fellow trees provide important habitats for a huge variety of animals, each one with an important role in your environment and the wider environment. You have a family around you that have come from your fallen seeds or acorns. These families are part of larger communities, and you're connected with your roots entwining and the mycelium in the soil, part of your network of information, sending signals and nourishment to your family members and your broader community. So as you can see, trees are communities. In the wintertime, we can see the branches and the structure and the bones of the tree, and depending where we are, when you go for a hike, you can see more of the roots under the soil. But I think using the tree as a metaphor and being in that awareness of all the beings, not just the tree, but all the codependencies and all the connections and the symbiotic relationships is a good metaphor for us in our own community. In Buddhism, I love the term Sangha. Are you familiar with that term? Sangha is a sacred community of practice. And I want to share with you some words about sacred community from Thich Nhat Hanh, the Vietnamese Zen Buddhist monk who passed away just a couple of months ago in his 90s. And why it's important for us to be in community. And actually, I would love to make a pitch that the 12 unity powers actually be expanded to 13 so that community can be a unity power. We've got all the others, zeal and enthusiasm and illumination and love and faith. I think the power of community should be added. I think we should make a case. 100 years ago, the idea of the guru and individual enlightenment was even more popular, and things have evolved. Our consciousness is evolving, and it's Thich Nhat Hanh that said, the next Buddha may be a Sangha, right? Not so much an individual enlightenment, but a group enlightenment. So these are the words of Thich Nhat Hanh. It is difficult to make a change alone. In the Sangha, sacred community, there's a powerful collective energy of mindfulness and concentration. It can help us make a breakthrough. It ignites our insight. Our practice together is very important. When we practice with the sacred community, it's easier than practicing alone. We've experienced that just now in the meditation. I find I can go deeper and longer when I'm in a group meditating. Others, I see some nodding. There's just something about our collective energy, right? Our own form of mycelium. Right? Our practice is very important. When we practice with the Sangha, it is easier than practicing alone. Sometimes I may get carried away, I may carry us away. But thanks to collective practice, we can regain our solidity. Even if we're distracted, our Sangha can help us remember to come back to the present moment, to touch what is positive, to touch our peace, to see how to undo the difficulty. And we saw in the prayer blessing that Pat did, that's an example of this collective support that we offer each other. And in the Sangha, in this sacred community, there are those who bring happiness to many people. There are those who cook very well. There are those who take care of the garden beautifully and grow nutritious vegetables. There are those who organize festivities in their very beautiful, creative way. There are those who don't have these talents, but just sitting in meditation or greeting people in the door. Now, these aren't Thich Nhat Hanh's words, but play beautiful music or prepare a beautiful program or plan and take care of our beautiful sanctuary. This brings happiness to others. Such people are a great benefit to the Sangha, says Thich Nhat Hanh. Everybody contributes their own part. And thanks to the practice, you can create more joy, peace, and understanding that nourishes you, the sacred community, and nourishes the world. Thich Nhat Hanh also says, he calls the Sangha, the sacred community, his Sangha body, which is an interesting way to think about it. Like we were in the tree body extends to all the other beings that are part of that tree ecosystem. He says the Buddha body, that divine energy is in us. Using the energy of mindfulness, we can touch the body of the divine within us and around us at any time. The Sangha body, the sacred community, is in me and around me. The trees, the grass, the blue sky, the flowers are all elements of my Sangha, of my sacred community. And you are my Sangha body. You take care of me. And the art of Sangha building is crucial to our spiritual practice. If the Sangha doesn't have the quality you expect, don't abandon it. Do not look for a perfect Sangha. Stick to the one you have and try with your practice and your joy and peace to improve it. This is very important, says Thich Nhat Hanh. Members of your Sangha can also be your child, your family, your partner, and it could be a beautiful path in the woods. Our practice should be supported by people around us, and we learn how to support them in return. We support them by looking deeply so we can recognize the seeds of peace, joy, and loving kindness in them. We touch these seeds. We water these seeds every day in order to make other persons blossom and bloom like flowers. And when these people bloom like flowers, we all become happier. We have to help each other in our practice. We have to do it together. It's possible that the next Buddha will not take the form of an individual. The next Buddha may take the form of a community practicing understanding and loving kindness, a community practicing mindful living. And that practice can be carried out as a group, as a city, as a nation. And from finding these words of Thich Nhat Hanh, I learned that he had a relationship with Martin Luther King. Martin Luther King nominated him for the Nobel Peace Prize in 1967. And they talked about that similarity of the idea of the Sangha and Martin Luther King's vision of the beloved community. So when you bring that Sangha to society and to nations, you're moving things forward as the beloved community. So, my friends, you are my Sangha body. Oh, we are each other's Sangha body. We are that tree ecosystem, having different roles, different kinds of relationships, but all part of that collective whole, providing sanctuary for each other and a place to practice. So I want to go back to, I found a great poem that kind of summarizes it all. Ever heard of the Fetzer Institute in Grand Rapids, Michigan? They pay people to pray, right? They study spirituality, and they just published a report recently, you can find it on their website, about the evolution of spiritual practice and its relationship with religion, and how communities aren't, okay, you're meeting on Sunday doesn't mean you're a church, it doesn't mean it's a religion, and unity is a set of principles, not necessarily a church, right? So, but it is a community, and we need communities to help us practice. How many of you took the 5 Principles study group, participated? Okay. Or there's what used to be called C Week, it's now called Spiritual Explorers Week, coming up in March if you've ever taken a class. Or if you've even participated in movie night here. If you look in the back of the program, there are so many ways that our community here gives us ways to practice. And I know that Victoria will be highlighting some of those, but just scan the back. There are so many ways to engage and do your part to practice. I like to think that the people in my life, the communities I'm part of, my family, people I run into at the store, each encounter is an opportunity for spiritual growth, because when I'm at home, I talk to myself. I might be working on my self-awareness. I might be meditating or praying unceasingly. That's an interesting practice I was challenged to try in seminary. That was very interesting. But what really brings me growth is the encounters with people where things don't go great, right? Things don't go perfectly. And it's an opportunity for me to, like, well, why am I thinking that? Or why did I react that way? How come I didn't respond like this? Or why didn't that go the way my heart, that didn't feel good? Or the way I was thinking didn't pan out. All those come from my interactions with other people. That's my practice. So the more I'm in connection with others, the more opportunity I have to keep practicing. So that's how I feel about this Unity Center of Peace, this community, and the other spiritual communities I'm part of. And I think of them as sacred communities because I hold them sacred and dear in my heart. I make this community sacred to myself. It's not because somebody told me it's sacred. It's because I choose to make it sacred, just like the outdoor spaces here, the medicine wheel and the labyrinth and the Serenity Trail and just the woods themselves. I choose to make them sacred. I choose to make them part of my community of practice on my spiritual journey. So with those ideas in mind, I'm going to close with a poem that's at the end of the Fetzer Institute report on how things are transforming a lot thanks to COVID over these last 2 years among spiritual communities and spiritual seekers. Under a Sky, this is called The Seven Pentacles by Margie Pierce, or Marge Pierce. Under a sky the color of pea soup, she is looking at her work, growing away there actively, thickly, like grapevines or pole beans, as things grow in the real world, slowly enough. If you tend to them properly, if you mulch, if you water, if you provide birds that eat insects a home and winter food, if the sun shines and you pick off the caterpillars, if the praying mantis comes and the ladybugs and the bees, then the plants flourish, but at their own internal clock. Connections are made slowly. Sometimes they grow underground. You cannot tell always by looking what is happening. More than half the tree is spread out in the soil under your feet. Penetrate quietly as the earthworm that blows no trumpet. Fight persistently as the creeper that brings down the tree. Spread like the squash plant that overruns the garden. Gnaw in the dark and use the sun to make sugar. Weave real connections, create real nodes, build real houses. Live a life you can endure. Make love that is loving. Keep tangling and interweaving and taking more in, a thicket and a bramble, wilderness to the outside, but to us, interconnected with rabbit runs and burrows and lairs. Live as if you liked yourself, and it may happen. Reach out, keep reaching out, keep bringing in. This is how we're going to live for a long time, not always. For every gardener knows that after the digging, after the planting, after the long season of tending and growth, the harvest comes. So that's a poem by Marge Pierce. So now, maybe you can say the affirmation with me, and maybe it'll have even more meaning than when I first said it. All right, the first one, I am divine expressing. I am divine expressing. The second one, I practice as part of sacred communities. I practice as part of sacred communities. Thank you. And the last one, I am collective wholeness. I am collective wholeness. Ta-da! And so it is.